So that's a great question. And I think there are a lot of parents who are very concerned that somehow it's their fault. I did this, whatever that is. And I say this smiling because, as I have mentioned before, I tend to be an anxious individual. So I have lived a lot of my life trying to recognize when I feel a certain way. I don't need to necessarily take it on, or I have an adult perspective that I can bring to a situation to realize that a lot of the things that I think about might not actually happen. Children don't have that perspective yet when they're so young. So there have been many researchers who have identified certain parenting styles. And one thing I would love to tell parents, tell caregivers, is there's no genetic marker that we can point to say this gene causes anxiety, let's say. If anyone refutes that, I'd love to know. That would be delightful information to add to my own knowledge base. But I think there is a tendency, a predisposition, if you will, that may come from generations of patterns in the brain being laid and behaviors that are associated with those patterns. So I don't want to discount the role of heredity, but I do think that there are styles of parenting that might send messages, implied or explicit messages to children about safety. So I think that's very important. So there are some types of parenting. For instance, there's a researcher, Diana Baumrind, who did work in the late 60s and 70s, discerning different styles. So you've got on one hand the extreme authoritarian parenting style where it's my way or the highway, rules are there, you dare not break them, or else, whatever the dot 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 is, and let the children can imagine the dot 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 or literally experience the dot dot dot. And then you've got on the other extreme a very permissive parenting style where anything goes, whatever you want, it's fine. And then somewhere in the middle is that authoritative parenting style. Another type of parenting sometimes gets highlighted or featured, if you will, called a democratic parenting style. The word democracy can mean different things in different contexts, but in this type of parenting, it would be, for instance, where we get to talk about things, we get to negotiate, but I'm the adult, so my vote sort of trumps yours. Even though you get some input, I still have extra, extra influence, if you will, because my job is to keep you safe. So I think people might feel a quick alignment with one type of parenting based on their own values that could potentially contribute to more or less anxiety in children. So the authoritarian, on the one hand, while a child might live in fear of disappointing a parent who's a rather authoritarian parent, or be afraid to take a risk because the rules are so strict that they dare not, another child might feel very safe because they have no choices to make. It's just the parent's decision all the time. So why am I worried? I have nothing to worry about. They do tell me what to do and I follow that order. Other children might feel a little nervous if the parent is so permissive that they have no idea what the rules are, because children like to feel safe. That actually is helpful. A lot of times teachers don't like to make rules because they don't want to seem mean. They want children to like them. I want to be liked. And many parents and caregivers have that same feeling. But the reality is that children really do need and value routines. It helps them develop some mastery over their own environment, and then they can internalize those skills for themselves as they get older. So is there an association? There could be. Children might learn from adults. It's not safe to go out after a certain time because it's dark and things happen when it's dark. That's something they might learn. And then as they get older, they realize, I totally disagree with this. That's nonsense. I feel fine. So as they develop into their own individual beings, they'll develop their own opinions. But I do think that children do take their cues from the adults around them, but that doesn't necessarily mean therefore they will be anxious if a parent is anxious, not anxious if a parent is not anxious. So it's, I think, a really interesting question, something to be aware of, but there is such an interplay in a person's predisposition towards something and then their environment that might nurture that or absolutely not. So